As technologies advance and costs decline for entry into the industry, a spaceport infrastructure will be necessary to link activities within the space industry. This creates opportunity for research, education, tourism, and manufacturing. A spaceport can serve as the axis of a technological ecosystem, providing access to space through vertical launch capabilities and horizontal launch takeoffs. One of the most notable companies that are responsible for a lot of growth in the space industry is SpaceX. Starship is the next generation of rockets that can carry large payloads off-planet. Boca Chica is where these mega rockets are born. Brownsville, South Padre Island International Airport is close to the Starship base. Today's guest is the airport's Deputy Director of Development and Security and is behind the effort for a spaceport in the area. Please welcome Francisco Partida. Welcome, Francisco. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Izzy. Thank you so much for the invitation. I am honored to be your guest today.
We met a year ago at SpaceCom and at the Global Spaceport Alliance. You were starting to develop a spaceport with Brownsville, South Padre Island Airport. You want to talk a little bit about how that is going on since we last talked?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we spoke when I met you almost a year ago, the city officials and elected officials and the leadership team, they had identified the need to create an environment where aerospace companies that can thrive and they can support the new wave of commercial space exploration. And the goal is to make Brownsville the new space city USA. We want to participate in that $1 trillion economy by embarking in these different initiatives. The city has supported the establishment of a space entrepreneurship incubator at the airport. We have attracted some of the operations of Space Ventures. It is a space finance investment portal that is backed by 9.8 capital. And as you mentioned, pursuing the spaceport designation for the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport and other initiatives in the works.
Is this different than the Boca Chica facility that Elon Musk is planning?
Yes, absolutely. The two sites are different. The airport is within city limits. The Boca Chica or Starbase facility is about 20 miles from the airport. And the only access road that goes to that facility is through the airport. So they're not competing with each other. The Starbase facility is a traditional vertical launch and recovery site for rockets, and our facility would be horizontal, vertical, and recovery site when licensed. And one of the interesting bits of information that a lot of people don't know is at this point, the Boca Chica site, it is an advanced research and development facility with launch authorization. They have not yet received the spaceport designation.
Oh, wonderful. Can you tell us where you are in the process of making Brownsville a spaceport?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 years ago, we commissioned a spaceport feasibility study with a specialized consulting firm. After analyzing the various data, the input from local, state, and federal regulators and stakeholders, they ran some models, some simulations models for the land and the airspace around Brownsville and into the Gulf, and obviously the launch windows and how close to the equator we are. And the result was feasible. The study returned a result of feasible for Brownsville to become a licensed spaceport. So we were able to justify pursuing this designation with the community, the elected officials, the economic development corporations that support our efforts. We started the conversations with the FAA's Office of Commercial Space, and regarding as to where we stand today, you know that there are many factors that impact the FAA's determination of whether to license a spaceport or not. And I would say that it's ongoing. We have to try to define that concept of operations and the risk associated with the operation and how to mitigate those risks.
Well, and this is not a short window. This is a long game thing. You know, just to get an airport, a in our state, we have general aviation airports that are small airports for the local economy. And right now, we're building one, and it has taken 17 years, and we haven't had the first launch off the runway yet. So this is a very big undertaking to do, and it takes a long time. In the meantime, we have technology that's speeding like a bullet or faster than a bullet. For example, one of the things that I'm assuming you're going to have take off at your airport is suborbital supersonic. What things are you planning on having launch from your airport?
Yeah, like you say, sometimes the regulatory process and the activation process, it's a long, drawn out process. While the technology, the private enterprise like Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic and Virgin Orbit, Sierra Space Corporation, they are moving light speed. They're in warp zone right now, and they're leaving us behind, right? So we're trying to catch up. We're just trying to keep up. Having mentioned these companies, definitely being a horizontal, feasible spaceport, we would pursue these types of vehicles like the Dream Chaser, like Virgin Orbit's Launcher One system, the Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two, and I know their headquarters and Spaceport America, but like airports, and we see it from the macro picture or the big picture. There's not just one airport per state or one airport per country. There are thousands and thousands of airports around the country, around the world. So that's where the future of spaceport is, combining, being a true multimodal hub for transportation, where we can connect the ground passengers with their flights or even their suborbital flights.
Marketing strategies related to our guest visit can be found on spacemarketingpodcast.com in the Show Notes Expanded section, with corresponding page numbers to the strategies in my book, Space Marketing, Competing in the New Space Economy, available on Amazon and Audible. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back. Are you planning on doing any type of tourism, like with the balloons? You have Space Perspectives and you have Worldview that have balloon type of entertainment. That is also a non-rocket transportation.
Yeah, that is definitely, I would consider like a captive launch, since the gondolas or the capsules, they just inflate the big balloon. And it's funny that you mentioned it, and I was going to get there. Excellent segue. Is we were in the running or competing to become Space Perspectives headquarters when they sent out this RFIs, the request for information, to Space Coast, Florida, the state of Texas, because they know that Texas is really pushing for commercial space, and then the others like New Mexico and California. And obviously we know that the announcement was that they selected Space Coast, Florida to do their headquarters. But again, thinking about the macro picture, there's not just one airport per country. We can be an alternate site in the future. So we've established a good relationship with them, and when they are ready, we will be ready.
One of the interesting things that I found in my research was that the state of Texas is extremely supportive of space. They have been an industry leader for decades, and they're not ready to give that up. The Spaceport Trust Fund is a financial tool that they have developed to increase the infrastructure for spaceports in the state of Texas. These funds are available for any spaceport development corporation that has secured a viable business entity and that is capable of launching and landing reusable launch vehicles or spacecraft. This is Texas' way of attracting the space economy. Are there any other promotional activities that you have seen or been a part of to grow the space industry in the state?
Well, I think the one that you mentioned, the Spaceport Trust Fund, established by the state of Texas, is one of the most important tools that there is available to, like you said, remain at the forefront of these companies and try to attract them and recruit them into either relocating their headquarters or expanding their operations. here in Texas. One of the success stories is SpaceX. The selection of the Boca Chica, aka Starbase site, was done in partnership with the City of Brownsville, the Cameron County local government, and the state of Texas. We know SpaceX applied for some of those funds, and they were granted funds back in 2014 to be able to start this site. So definitely very excited for the opportunities that money could bring when attracting a corporation that is dedicated to commercial space exploration.
What are some things that Brownsville is doing to spread the idea of space? How are they working in community outreach and working with leaders?
Since SpaceX selection of the Boca Chica site, the city as a whole embraced the idea of commercial space exploration, and the support of the elected officials and the city leaders has been constant, nonstop. The city has partnered with organizations holding town halls, space forums, community events to gain the support of the local community, of those who at the beginning they were skeptical. They said, no, that's a wild dream. We're talking about sci-fi. So doing those type of events around the city, involving the community, and highlighting the benefits of fostering this environment where aerospace companies can thrive here in the region, that they would bring high-paying jobs to our region, improve our quality of life, and it would benefit us all.
So you said something about community events. Can you give an example of some of the community events that they have done as an outreach?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, the community outreach is part of that town hall setting where the Chamber of Commerce, they call it coffee with the city. So then our city manager would come, we would host 100, 150 people per event, free coffee, donuts, bagels. And then we would, the elected official or the city representative will talk about what the city is doing to foster this environment. We would invite one of the representatives for one of the companies that was recently recruited, like, for example, Space Ventures or Capital, 9.8 Capital, and kind of give a little briefing of what the company is doing, or what the mission is going to be, or the vision for the Brownsville office will be. So that's one of the many events that they have done. They've also partnered with local artists, because it's not everything is about just business. So involving the local artist community and having them create this artwork or these art pieces to be exhibited at the Brownsville Museum of Fine Arts, and having the exhibit open for 90 days, attracting the young kids and the families to see what the bus is about, right? So pop-up block parties also with space team, or partnering with one of the Musk companies like Tesla. Tesla has a big presence here in Brownsville now. It's the largest presence south of San Antonio, Texas. And they had a nice night out where they had the different Teslas displayed. And it was kind of like a block party where they had food and local drinks, local artists displaying the art as well, and the food, the local food. So that has helped a lot to spread the message and to get that buy-in from the rest of the community.
That is awesome. How often do you have these events?
I would say there's an event at least once a quarter, sometimes twice a quarter. It just depends on the resources available. And also, Texas is really hot, as you know, so in this summer especially has been very, very hard on everyone. So we haven't seen a lot of that happen, but we hope that in the fall we can commence again and begin again with this type of event.
Do you do anything online, or does Texas do anything online as far as their outreach during these times of either COVID or heat?
Yeah, so one of the interesting initiatives that our local economic development corporation, called the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, has done is being very active on the recruiting, on doing these outreach missions to conferences, Washington, D.C., or even visiting headquarters of companies that the city wants to attract. And one of the things that the city did about a month and a half is they were awarded almost a year ago, or they were selected as the site for Select USA event. And that is part of the U.S. Economic Development Agency. And they try to attract foreign investment into the U.S. So Brownsville was one of the 10 or 15 cities selected to hold this event and host these investors and potential prospects. And it was held for a day and a half or 2 days, where we had at the Brownsville Event Center, we had big presentations with the companies that we have already recruited and the economic development corporations and all our elected officials, highlighting the benefit of investing in this region and how we are pushing for that new Space City USA in Brownsville, Texas.
How much do you think it plays a part that Brownsville is very space forward in a lot of these foreign investors coming to the state and coming to the area?
It shows that the city has a vision and it's moving forward. It has direction and it has energy. And we have been able to recruit other companies. It is not just a story, it's a reality. It's becoming a reality, and it's only gaining more traction. The story is consistent. It's one message. It's one voice, because the city has been able to wrap that message with all the organizations and whomever you talk with, the mayor, the city manager, the airport director, or myself, we will all tell you that Brownsville wants to be the new Space City USA. And all the things that we're doing, like we've mentioned in this podcast, and it's consistent across the board. And it shows confidence, and it shows that it's a reality, and it's not just a pretty story, and it's not just aspirational goal that we're trying to reach. There are actually meaningful steps being taken to foster that environment.
Well, and the message is key. Having a consistent message only makes that message more powerful. And I know that you have a background in public relations. One of the things that you do is oversee social media and that sort of thing at the airport. You want to touch on the value of having a firm message and a story in all of the outreach and promotion that you do?
It's building trust. It's about conveying the right message and a consistent message. It's gaining that credibility and that rapport with both our industry peers and these companies that we're trying to attract to the city. So it's all about the actions behind the scene, but also the message, the voice that we're using. It's not a passive voice, it is an active voice. And like I said, it's consistent. You know, it has a personality, definitely. When you talk to the mayor, the palette of colors may change. As to the airport, it's more industry-driven, more technical, but it is consistent across the board.
Oh, I love how you describe that, by the way. What have been some of the challenges that you've had with communicating with community, legislators, and other stakeholders?
That is a very interesting question, and thank you for putting that out there. It's actually a tricky question, because as with any advance, as with any change, there are a lot of people that get on board early and quick, and they become champions of change, and they become champions of this mission, of this vision that the city is putting out there. And at the same time, there are people that, you know, they don't really like change, or they don't want to see change, right? And no, it's not a negative thing, right? We are a diverse community. We are what is considered a medium-sized community, and our demographics are all across the board, from young children, families, single, upcoming professionals, to our 55 plus, 65 plus, retirees, you know, people, they just want to live a quiet life. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we've had, is getting that buy-in from everyone. It's not possible to get the buy-in from everyone. And they do have a voice, and that voice matters. And beside that, there's also another segment of the community that they feel like these big corporations are going to come and take over and strip the identity of the community. So it's a balancing act. We have to stay active, listen and address those concerns, and try to mitigate all those concerns and show that Brownsville is going to continue to be Brownsville and have its own identity while still supporting economic development and the new space race or the new space exploration.
And I want to really focus on one of the things that you said real quick, is that you listen. You know, a lot of marketing gets a bad rap out there because they're not listening. They're forcing their messages down people's throats and expecting them to just hand them money in exchange. And that's where marketing gets a bad rap. But that's a very small part of marketing. And really good outreach, promotion, marketing, or whatever term you want to use, you have to listen to what your stakeholders are saying, your community is saying, so that you can craft a message that gives them the information that they need in order to feel like they're a part of the decision, like they're a part of the plan, and that their opinion matters. And that's how you get them on board. So I just want to really focus on what you said about listening to your community and how important that is.
Absolutely. Definitely agree with all the statements that you've made. Marketing, advertising gets a really bad rapport with the community or its target audience sometimes, because it's just push, buy, or select this instead of selecting this. And, for some products, from some services, it might work. I'm not saying it's not effective. Some people are quick to jump and say, yeah, I'm good, perfect. But when you're talking about an initiative that change your community, you have to be very delicate and you have to be very mindful, and you have to have the buy-in of the majority. We're a democracy, right? We're grateful and lucky to live in a country that values democracy. So we can't impose. And that's one of the things that the city has actively, that keeps in the forefront and engages with the local community, with the local partners, the long-standing relationships that were already in place before all these other new companies came on board. And the key message is high tides rise all boats, right? And if there's a concern, let's hear about it. Let's try to clear the air and let's try to resolve it and work together towards achieving a positive resolution.
Just for the listeners out there, when you don't do this, all it does is make it harder to get your initiative passed. It makes it more expensive, and you end up going against the tide, and you not with the tide to get it built or get it created. It does nothing but create heartache and extra work and may kill the project ultimately. So paying attention to your audience is so critical to getting any initiative started.
And the same as having the one message, right? If the city has one vision of how this community is going to move forward and achieve these goals, but if the key stakeholders or organizations run along with their own message, it creates resentment. It creates distrust and a lot of misconceptions about the project that even before it takes off, it could kill it, because I heard that it was going to be, a 15-acre, $20 million project. Well, no, I only heard that it was going to be a 3-acre, $5 million project. So I'm not for it. And you're not going to convince me otherwise. So it is very important, like you said, just to be consistent, to have one voice, one message, and actively listening of what the community is telling you, what your local residents and local organizations concerns are.
I want to touch a little bit on tools, how you do to communicate, what tools do you use to communicate with your community and legislators and stuff? I'm talking technical tools like social media.
Yeah, definitely. one of the main thing is social media. I mean, people want information now. They want it as soon as it becomes available. They want to read it. They want to touch it. So the way to reach it is through the social media channels. The City of Brownsville and the airport have very active social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and that's a huge part of our marketing efforts. It takes a lot, that digital component. Then we do traditional media. You know, when we hold events, we do media advisories, press releases to get the word out, to invite the community or invite these investors to come out. And we do the outreach missions, right? We invest a lot in going out of the state or interstate in whatever conference, whatever setting there is, to showcase what the community is doing and to tell the Brownsville story.
To expand that pride of community. That's a huge driver right there. Where do you see the spaceport industry in, say, 10 to 20 years? Paint a picture of what you see in 20 years, the macro vision.
I definitely see our regulatory agencies like the Federal Aviation Administration and the U.S. Department of Transportation catching up to the private industry, becoming a stronger partner in advancing these technologies and these modes of transportation, because it benefits the nation. It benefits the citizens of not only the U.S., but the world. But if we want to stay at the forefront and be leaders, that's what I see with our regulatory partners. That will be definitely the catalyst for more technologies and more companies to reach for the stars and provide endless options of technology, transportation, research, and health for the citizens of the planet. I think I see spaceports as the access point, the same way that they are right now. They're the face of the community, is the first touch point for that visitor coming from outside. That's the gate to the community in and out. So I think spaceports will be the face of the community and will be vital for the development of the regions across the planet, across the country.
The climate crisis is a big deal. And I know that SpaceX has had to do a lot of mitigation with some of their practices. So I know that space is vital for taking and conquering some of these issues that we have with climate crisis. How do you see the spaceport industry being at the forefront of the champion of helping heal our planet?
The airport environment is highly regulated. We have the Federal Aviation Administration, we have the state Department of Transportation sometimes, we have the USDA, we have the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. We have so many rules and regulations, and there's a lot of pressure in the aviation industry to become greener, carbon neutral. And I think the industry as a whole has taken the appropriate steps and measures to reach those goals and even improve on those goals. So I don't see it as a big sticking point. It just takes an additional time, and we have to be environmentally conscious. We have to be thinking about the future, not just today, but creating that sustainability and making sure that the plans that we are embarking on today are here in 10, 20, 50, 100 years, and they are beneficial for the global community. So I think it's just an additional step that requires time, effort, and money, but it's okay because it's in the benefit of all of us.
And just to give kudos to the aerospace industry, there are new hydrogen planes and new electric planes that are coming online in order to get that zero pollution, zero exhaust, that green technology in aircraft. And it will segue right into the rockets and the horizontal takeoff versions as well. In fact, Via Space, they were able to launch a rocket using recycled plastic bottles as fuel. It is happening. And to be able to view the planet and see where the problems are, we have to do that from space. It is critical that we monitor from space, and that needs spaceports and space research and companies on the ground that do all of the gathering of data. So there's a lot that goes into what can be housed at a spaceport and how important it is for our planet.
Absolutely agree with you. How can we know the patterns of climate change if it's not from a satellite or the International Space Station or some other device floating around in space? How can we monitor those temperatures? Deploying probes all around the globe it's just not feasible, and they get damaged because they're exposed to that those waves or that harsh sun in the desert or the super cold and the poles. So observing the Earth, observing our environment, like you said, that macro picture. If I look out my window, I can see the picture of my neighborhood. I can figure out what might be wrong with just this little piece of land. But when you're able to zoom out and look at the globe and look at what's happening with it, you gain that foresight of the actions that you need to take to correct any issues that might arise.
Well, and as an example, Texas was hit really hard back in the turn of last century by a hurricane nobody saw coming. It wasn't until the 1960s that we had satellites up in space that could even monitor weather and see these big monoliths headed our way. Before that, you had to have a little outpost on an island. Well, and if that hurricane went by that island and they didn't see it, then it would make landfall with nobody knowing it was coming. And it cost thousands of lives. And I think that space is critical for that. And inspiration and research it's critical for all of those things in the community as a beacon to help us heal our planet, in addition to grow our economies and our communities. What advice would you have for other states, regions, countries as they begin their spaceport infrastructure journey?
I would say get the local coalition going, identify your stakeholders, survey the community, actively listen, present the idea, receive input, and then draft and create your message. And once you're being able to do that, then go out there and just keep at it. It's going to take time, effort, and money. It's going to take commitment and just stay consistent. It's not going to be easy. There's not a magic wand that you can wave and get everything lined up and going. Engage constantly with, from the middle up and from the middle down. I always consider that the airport and the community were smack down in the middle with the local partners and the community, the citizens, and then top with the regulatory agencies and these other companies that we're trying to recruit. So communication from the top down and bottom up. It's important.
What final thoughts do you want to leave our audience with today? What do you want them to know about what it is that Brownsville is doing and what it is that you're doing? And how do we get in touch with you? So some final thoughts.
We aspire to be New Space City, USA. If you have a huge interest in contributing to the new space exploration wave that we're experiencing, come down, visit us, take a look at what we have to offer, and see if we are a right fit for you. It's a warm, welcoming community. It's a forward-looking community, and we're undertaking many, many projects that will not. It is very nice. It's really a nice community, and we're taking those steps to make it even better. So we invite you to come down, check us out, even if it's just for a weekend. If you're an investor and if you're looking for a new headquarters or to start up your company, give us a call. You can reach me at francisco.partida@brownsvilletx.gov. We're on social media, Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport, both on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. So we're connected and look forward to hearing from you.
Wonderful. And I know that LinkedIn is one of my favorites, and that's how we communicate quite a bit. It is a very good professional platform where, the different platforms have different personalities. So, but thank you. So I'm going to stop the recording. So we got to hang on. Please subscribe before you head on over to the YouTube channel for bonus footage. Links to the YouTube channel and other social media channels can be found on spacemarketingpodcast.com. A special thanks to Francisco Partida from Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport for joining us today and sharing his experience with building a spaceport and a space economy in Texas. Be sure to check out his links listed in today's show notes. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.